Hey, it's Monday, November 24th. Here are the big headlines. God help me. The big one for me has to do with the place where the rubber really meets the road, where people whose job it is, whose business it is to really price risk begin looking at something like AI. And in this case, they're looking at it and they're basically saying, no, thank you. This is a story about insurers. So basically, the three big insurers, the major insurers in the world, a trio of them, this is AIG, Great American, and W.R. Berkley. These are major carriers. And what they are doing, according to the Financial Times, is they are petitioning U.S. regulators to basically say, don't make us include AI-related liabilities in our corporate policies. We don't want to have to be responsible for losses stemming from problems with AI. And this is because they say they just can't price it. The Financial Times has really good reporting here on this. They quote an executive from one company saying, we can handle a $400 million loss to one company. What we can't handle is an agentic AI mishap that triggers 10,000 losses at once. And this is because these companies are really spooked by what they're seeing in the AI landscape. I mean, we already know, right, that Google's AI overview system falsely accused a solar company of legal troubles earlier this year, which triggered a big $110 million lawsuit. Air Canada got stuck honoring a discount that its chatbot totally invented because one of their customers brought them to small claims court about it. And, we've seen fraudsters going crazy, right? Creating all kinds of fake executives and, snookering people out of millions of dollars in video conferences and using all kinds of spear phishing techniques. All that stuff is happening to such an extent that these executives really can't handle it. But it is not just those individual things. It is the sum total of that. I looked at insurance quite a bit in the past when we were looking at this incredibly high instance of police shootings, right, of officer-involved shootings in which someone like a Breonna Taylor was killed. And one of the ways that gets brought under control is when the insurers come to the cities and say, listen, we can't pay, you're not going to be, we're going to have to raise your premiums to a level that you cannot afford as a municipality if these things continue. Insurance is really it's a backstop to a lot of things. You see the pricing of insurance when it comes to, climate related effects or the price of conflict and the risk to companies in conflict zones. This stuff is truly like the price of real risk. And the fact that these companies are saying, we don't want anything to do with it is a really powerful and important thing. Also in the sort of the business world, I've been waiting all day to see whether this executive order was going to get pushed out by President Trump. If you paid attention last week, you saw I had a summary. A lot of people were watching the draft leak that came out showing that President Trump was going to push an executive order that was going to basically erase state law around AI, banning it wherever possible. Well, Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, was in the EU and is trying to basically use the stick of tariffs to, get the Trump administration's way around the world. And one of the things he's trying to do, in addition to this executive order that we were watching for today, and I don't think it's come out yet, I'm still waiting, but he's pushing in EU and saying, listen, if you want us to lower steel tariffs, then you need to relax your tech rules. And of course, EU is the world leader when it comes to Western democracies around tech rules, right? It is the Digital Services Act in the EU that is really, sets the standard for Western democracies. It's a risk-based system that really, brings real fines and real legal teeth to regulating this stuff at a time when the United States is not regulating AI at all. And so the idea that Lutnick is out there trying to make them change their laws in order to get them a better price on steel and aluminum is pretty crazy. He says, if they can come up with, this is Howard Lutnick being quoted, if they can come up with a balanced approach to technology regulation, then we will, together with them, handle the steel and aluminum issues and bring that on together. So that is on the table. He said Brussels should, quote, solve outstanding cases against Google, Microsoft, and Amazon and create a framework that we are comfortable with. This is the government not saying, this is not a government that seems at all interested in regulating these companies. It's literally treating these companies as the responsibility of the administration to protect, which continues this theme of, putting money into a ballroom and paying homage to Trump with gold statues, as Apple's Tim Cook did, and suddenly the Commerce Secretary carrying these tech companies water for them in Brussels. Another big story that has jumped out for me is there's a lot of really important and powerful reporting going on about data centers, right? The data centers around the world are becoming both, an incredibly powerful and important part of how major tech companies are getting their AI inference problems solved, right? If you're going to answer all the demand for AI around the world, then you need these huge and incredibly expensive and energy intensive data centers. Well, they're putting them all over the place. And Mumbai, according to The Guardian, it has a great report, is seeing new data centers put in some cases in their absolutely filthiest neighborhoods already, which is, it's really like, it's creating the requirement that India has to keep its coal plants going, which means at a time when India is trying to phase that stuff out, right, would really like to not be polluting its cities with coal fire any longer, is having to keep them going. And it's that kind of thing. Here in the United States, we have the luxury of thinking that we're going to maybe move to nuclear, if we consider that a luxury. But in other parts of the world, that is not a luxury that they can afford. They can't necessarily swing that. And instead, it's driving them back toward 19th century deadly forms of polluting energy, and that is something like coal. Terrible. Excuse me. The last thing I'll just point out here is in an extra piece of just real, what are we calling this? Just the dystopia of all of this is there's a article in Business Insider by that's about Gen Z getting advice, basically saying that you can stand out in the job market in the world of AI by focusing on tasks rather than titles. I don't know if you saw that the Secretary of Transportation released this ridiculous video basically telling people that they need to be more civil when they travel. They shouldn't wear jammies and they should be nicer, and the age of civility needs to come back, and it starts with you, he says, at a time right when the margins on airplanes on air travel are tighter than ever, when these companies are cutting and cutting and cutting. I mean, I'm a 6'7" guy, and to see the deregulated airline industry jam these seats as close together as ever, the idea that I'm being asked to then be civil is crazy. In the same way, the idea that young people are being told, don't worry about your job title, just worry about the tasks, is the most cynical thing ever. I don't know when this is going to give, like when Gen Z kids are just going to basically say, like, never mind, I'm not doing this work anymore. But it really feels like we're close to it. It's absolutely insane to me. Last thing I'll point out to you is I did a couple of appearances on PBS and CNN last week. I think I have a couple more coming up this week as well. I hope you'll check them out. They're on theripcurrent.com. You can see those clips there. And I really appreciate you paying attention. We'll tune in tomorrow with more headlines, and I'll talk to you then. The Rip Current is produced and created by me, Jacob Ward. And if you liked this show and you want more content like this, go to theripcurrent.com, where I publish a weekly newsletter that covers these same sorts of stories of the big invisible forces that have us all in their grip. And if you want to really do me a favor, if you could go to where you have listened to this or watched it, and like it, share it, or even better, review it. Holy cow, is that helpful? It's the best possible way for me to find a new audience. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for listening.